Okay, so welcome everybody to the annual general meeting of the London Natural History Society. And we've got an agenda. Hopefully everybody's seen that, so you'll know what the plan is for the meeting. We've got some different people going to contribute at different times, and we're going to get started now. So the first thing on the agenda is apologies for absence. So has anybody, David, Secretary, or anybody else got any apologies for absence?
So we had one apology from Liz Andrew, who wasn't going to be able to make it. So unless she has been able to make it, if you can call Liz, that's the only one I've had.
Right. Anyone else? No. Okay. Thank you. So we'll just jot that down. Yeah, Liz is a bit poorly, so she did let us know. So item 2 on the agenda is to confirm the minutes of the AGM that was held last year on the 11th December 2020. And again, hopefully people have had a look at those. It will have gone out as a document like that to all the members. So you should be able to have been able to read that through. And it also did go on Eventbrite for people to have a look at there. So if there are any comments or anything, any questions that people would like to ask based on those minutes, I'm just going to pause for a second or two just to see. Do either put something in the chat or pop your virtual hand up.
While people are considering that, can I just ask if anybody's got their mic on and they shouldn't have, so they're not going to say anything, please, could they turn it off just because we are getting quite a bit of background noise? Thank you. Yeah, so back to any comments on the minutes?
Right. Okay, so I'm going to assume that means that everybody's happy with them, or we can put them to the vote. So we'll need somebody.
I'll propose them.
And we need a seconder, please.
Yeah, I can second them. That'll do. Okay,
so we will vote on those, and I think we're going to. Yeah, perfect. So you've got, please, if you're not an LNHS member, sorry, you're not able to vote, so you can just tick the bottom box at the bottom. But if people could vote on those, that'd be fantastic. And we'll just give you a little bit longer. Yeah, so just talk about half a minute.
The little box is gone.
Okay. Oh, that's fine. Okay, so the poll, yes, the poll has ended now. And we've got, right, so let me just explain about the numbers. We've got 4 people being co-hosts today, and the electronics, the way the system's set up, doesn't allow us to actually cast our vote. So we've decided beforehand what our votes are going to be. So we will add 4 to various parts of these results, just so you know why an extra 4 pop up. So what we've got here is we've got in favour 18, plus 4 for the 4 co-hosts, so that'd be 22, 0 against and 2 abstentions. So that's the outcome of that vote. Thank you very much for that. I think we may have a couple of other people that are not muted, so if you could just check, that would be great. Then the second item on the agenda is about receiving and adopting. We're going to start off with the annual report. So I'm going to hand over first of all to David Howden to start us off, and then there will be some contributions made by people from different sections to follow on. So over to you, David.
Thanks, Maria. You'll be pleased to know I'm not going to read the annual report to you line by line. It was sent out, and hopefully people have had a chance to look at it. But just briefly to reflect on, in a sense, what a interesting and unusual year it has been for the society. For the vast majority, in fact, I think for pretty much all of the reporting year, our reporting year runs to the end of June, so it's a slightly odd beast. We were restrained by law or by common sense or by good practice from getting together in person pretty much throughout this year. And I had worried that this report, when I was first thinking about what it would look like sort of a year in advance, would consist of me saying, well, we've done nothing. There's been COVID. Actually, we've done an awful lot. This series of talks that we have organised, and thanks particularly to the people in the organising team who've made that work, have been a real transformation of what the society's done. It allowed us to keep an awful lot of activity going, allowed us to keep ourselves really active and vital through this. So that's one of the things to just acknowledge. Our other activities, field meetings and so on, have not really been able to happen in the same way, although they are now restarting. And as far as I can tell, nothing in the announcement from the Prime Minister yesterday said field meetings have to stop happening. But we haven't got any planned, I don't think, for this side of Christmas. But anyhow, so we didn't do a great many field meetings or any indoor lecture type meetings during the relevant year, but that's more than made up for by these virtual talks. Many of our other activities have continued. A newsletter has continued to go out with useful news about what the society is doing in it, in a nice, attractive publication. We got out our 2 flagship journals, the London Naturalist and the London Bird Report, in the year. And I'm sure the inability to meet up and so on made life for that even more challenging for the hard-working editors and editorial boards and people who produce those, but we got those out. And lots of work going on future publications that may well be coming out. So in future years, we will be reporting on those. And interestingly, our membership is way up compared to what it was. Our membership at the end of last year was about just short of 800. And it was just short of 900 the year before. That would really be in a pattern of decline pretty much year on year that we've been seeing. This year it stands at a little bit over 1,000. And that, I suspect, is significantly due to these virtual talks that have happened, attracting people, and people seeing that we're doing something, that we're active, and being really happy to be part of that. And if anybody is on this who isn't currently an LNHS member and would like to join, it's a very reasonable £20 a year. It supports our activities. You get our wonderful publications. You should definitely think about it. As soon as this meeting finishes, you should rush to the website and sign up. And I think everything else that I might mention in here is likely to be covered by other bits of this presentation. So I will stop talking now and move on to, I think, back to Maria, who will tell you what's happening next.
Thanks, Dave. That's fantastic. And we're all very excited about the increase in our membership. I can see the woohoo in the chat, which was great. But of course, there's still room for more members. So please don't, we're not full. So please do feel that you can join us, and we would really welcome you. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go around and we're going to get a little report from each of the various sections or different parts of the society. And then, yeah, thank you. That's great. Thanks for sharing the presentation, Kieran. So David Allen, can we start off with you and with your report about the library? So if you're happy to do that. Kieran, has somebody made David Allen?
It's all right. I've just found out how to unmute myself.
Perfect. Thank you. So over to you, please, David.
Okay. Yeah, I thought that doesn't look like myself. Yes. Well, we didn't get in really until July. So is that after the end of when the annual report is supposed to be operating? I'm not sure about that.
Strictly, yeah.
It's strictly, yeah.
Okay, so look at this as a preview for next year. Up until then, we maintained our committee meetings and purchases and journals, but they all disappeared into a black hole. And you can see what that black hole contained on the first slide. The AMC staff, all that was retrieved for us and stockpiled for us by the AMC staff. So an enormous thank you to all the staff in AMC. Virtually nothing went missing. There were one or two things which have been missing from before lockdown, but virtually nothing went missing during lockdown. Can we have the next slide? We added 36 new books to stock, which is about average for the course, neither more nor less. Some nice ones. I certainly enjoyed the insects book, which for somebody like me who is not an insect person and doesn't sort of drool over eviscerating Lepidoptera, I found that a useful addition to my own library. Pembrokeshire is absolutely beautiful and about 4 times the size of the original Wales. So lots of lovely things in stock there. We've maintained our inquiry service while we've gone on. Some of the things I've scanned from things I've got on the shelves here, and some of the things I've sort of hiked out of the bird records, but we've maintained our inquiry service as well. And the next slide. And I'm going to, somewhere there ought to be a slide of Julie and me together. I don't know where that is. Anyway, ooh, I am bowing gracefully out, gracefully as I always do everything, of course. Up until this Monday, we were taking bookings for the library. Basically on a Wednesday when staff were in, we were going to go in on a Wednesday to take bookings to visit the library. I imagine that that is now on hold, which is rather cross-making. But such is the way the government are working. So I think probably that is on hold. But if you've got inquiries about the library, do send them to the library email, library@lnhs.org.uk, and we will do our best to sort them. And after 8 years, we've nearly finished the stock take. I think we're on the 5th day of creation. We've got round to the mammals and all the beasts of the earth. We've done the birds of the air, and we're now on the beasts of the earth. So that means that we will have a clean catalogue online, which is something I'm really pleased to hand on. And have we got another slide? No, we haven't. Okay, you're missing a picture of me handing on the library stamp to Julie. I don't know if Julie wants to say a word or two.
So if I step in now, and then maybe Julie, if we could pass on to just kind of catch you and say hello to you at the end, that would be great. So
there you go.
Yeah, I think that's a good point for me to say thank you. I like the graceful way that you're handing the baton on. But just to say to it, obviously, David is stepping down as librarian, and we really want to express the Society's gratitude for all his work on the library for over many years. He steered its transfer from Imperial College to its new home, the Angela Marmot Centre in the Natural History Museum, and he's really worked tirelessly to ensure all the collection is properly catalogued, and the library is a really wonderful resource for members, which the public can also access. It's a real asset to the Society, and we're really very, very grateful for his work. He's not just done that, but he's also been instrumental in the digitisation of our material, not only our journals, but our historical bird records in particular. Digitisation has opened those resources up to a much wider audience, and to make full use of the records, they need to be not only digitised, but also transcribed. And David's ensured that this project, carried out by large numbers of volunteers, has tackled what was a huge data set, and progress has been on that as well. So not just the stock taking, but progress on that has been extremely impressive as well. I'd also like to say that David has been a significant presence on our Facebook group, posting on the recent additions to the library, which has been great, and also on other natural history matters. So we do hope we'll be able to continue with this. I think people have really enjoyed your posts, so let's if you can keep them up, that would be great. He's also been busy writing, so do read his excellent article on natural history publishing in the latest London Naturalist. And again, that should have come through everybody's letterbox already, and it's a fantastic read. So we do have to say goodbye, which is sad. We wish we didn't have to, but we understand it's time for you to step down and do some other things. There will be a small token gift coming its way to you, David, just to say thank you. And we do really wish you all the best, and thank you so much for all your dedicated service to the Society. So thanks once again.
That's very kind of you to say so. I'm not aiming to drop dead anytime soon.
No, of course. So hopefully you're around and about and carry on still being involved in the
My object is to step into Keith Hyatt's shoes in about 40 years.
Sounds a good plan. So we are very sorry to see David go, but we are delighted that Julie Burke has agreed to take over as Society Librarian. What's been great that she's been able to work alongside David for some time now, which should make for a really very smooth transition. So welcome to Julie, and we all look forward to working with you. Julie, there's no pressure, but if you would like to unmute and just say a quick hello, that would be lovely.
Yeah, it's going to be a challenge to step into David's shoes. I'm just do the best I can as something of a caretaker of the library for the moment.
That's great. But thank you very much for stepping in. And I think, you've been working together really well as a team, I think. So, and obviously, people are around to support you. And thank you so much. Hopefully, it's hard to know exactly what the short-term future will bring in terms of access to the library, but hopefully before too long, we'll be able to kind of get back to the kind of access that we'd like to have. So fingers crossed. Anyway, thank you very much to you, David, and thanks to you, Julie, as well. So we're going to move on now, and we're going to go on to the next section, which is Kieran's going to give a little bit of a report on the virtual natural history talks. Over to you, Kieran.
Thanks, Maria. And then after that, I'm going to go on to the Ecology and Entomology section before we go back to Maria. So virtual natural history talks. So hopefully everybody that's here today will be aware that we've got one coming up at about 7:30 beneath its murky waters, fish of the tidal Thames. So that's something that I'm personally really looking forward to. And it's the last in a fairly comprehensive series of talks that we've had this year. So we've had some talks on some fascinating subjects. I'm not going to go into any detail about them because you can catch up with them all on our YouTube channel. So if you go to the LNHS YouTube channel, they're all on a playlist. So even if you've missed them all, you can watch them all back. Really nice thing to do in this weather rather than going outside. So especially with the measures that are coming in from the government. So what I thought I'd do is just report back on what the talks have done for the society. So 2021 in numbers here. So to report back, we've had 27 talks. Now I've cheated a bit. That includes the one we're about to have today. So it's 26 if anything goes wrong and all of our internets go down, but 27 hopefully by the end of the year. And we've had over 5,000 people that have attended these. I mean, obviously some of those are the same people coming back again, but these numbers are something that this society just hasn't been able to achieve with our in-person stuff. So it's really opened up London Natural History Society to the wider UK and even rest of the world. And that's only part of the story because over 9,600 people have actually booked on Eventbrite, which means even though some of those people have obviously not attended, they are getting the links to the YouTube channels as well. So on average, we've had about 202 people coming per year, coming per talk. And that figure is important because it's over the threshold that we really need to continue doing the talks into the future. And I'm pleased to say that we've got a full program for 2022 as well. So we've had over 515 new subscribers on our YouTube channel, and we've had over 16,700 views on our YouTube channel, which is amazing. So it's something we're really, really proud of. And the number of hours that people have spent watching our channel is over 2,500 now. We also have a mailing list, which I'd ask one of my fellow LNHS people to put a link to in the chat, where you can sign up to hear about the talks so that you don't miss anything. And that's up from, I think, just about 200 and odd at the end of last year. So amazing numbers there. Well, what have we got coming up? So I've just picked out a few snippets. So we've got a series of talks for 2022. We're still finalizing a couple of those. The aim is to have one a month. So some highlights that I've picked out are brown hares in February, the unexpected consequences of feeding birds in your garden in March, identifying Britain's ferns. That's really popular. So if that's something that you'd be interested in, I'd recommend booking on that sooner rather than later, because we do have an upper limit, I'm afraid, that we can accept onto these because of our Zoom account. And finally, one that's a bit different, Microworld, How Microfossils Unravel Ancient Natural Histories. And that's the talk that we had programmed in for this year. We had to reschedule. So again, it's been really popular and something really different to the rest of the program. So if you're interested in any of these, you can book them through Eventbrite, where you'd have booked your space on today's AGM as well. And if you don't want to listen to the rest of what I'm saying because you want to go and book these, I'm happy with that. Please feel free to dip out and book on those talks. We promised ourselves we'd do one a month because it's actually quite a lot of work to organise these, and with things opening up, we didn't want to strain the team. So we are always looking for more volunteers. If you're interested in getting involved, I'll just ask Maria to drop in the chat the email address for the talks team. So if you want to get involved with helping us, please drop an email to us in the chat. But even though we said one a month, we just couldn't resist when Mark Spencer offered us a suite of talks on habitats. So we've got a suite of those talks that we're giving throughout the first half of the year. One example here is the Thames, wetlands and aquatic habitats. All of these talks are completely free, and they're open to both members and non-members, though I strongly recommend signing up to the Society. Wouldn't it be great if by the end of the year we can nudge that just over 1,000 up to maybe just over 1,100, so that we can recover some of the membership that we've lost over the past couple of years. So that's it about the virtual talks. Anything you'd like to add, Maria?
No, that's fine. That's a really nice comprehensive overview, and it's amazing to see how successful they've been. And I'm particularly pleased with the fact that we've got the recordings available and that people are able to watch afterwards, and we're getting such good numbers of views. So I think they're kind of fulfilling, and it means that you can go back to the talks from a year ago and start catching up, and new members who perhaps have only just joined us have got access to that bank of resources as well. So yeah, I'm really pleased. Thank you very much for sharing that.
Brilliant. So one role that I have within LNHS is I'm the chair of the Ecology and Entomology section, and the E&E section, as we call it, covers basically all of the animals except birds. So I've just got a couple of highlights from the section AGM from this year. We had a new species of bug. First time it was recorded in Britain. And it was found in the London area. It's the North American leafhopper, medium-sized green species that's specifically associated with the honey locust tree. So thank you to Tristan Bantock for reporting that into us. Our work has continued on the London Butterfly Atlas. That's actually an unfair comment. Leslie Williams' work has continued on the London Butterfly Atlas. I can't claim any credit for that whatsoever. He's still looking for species photos, particularly large white and meadow brown are surprisingly elusive when it comes to good photos. And he's also looking for photos of various habitats for the publication as well. So if you've got any photos that you'd like to donate to Leslie, you can either email him directly, I think his email address is on the LNHS website, or you can email the virtual talks team and we'll forward those on to him. Finally, we did have a new spider record for London as well, Pedeva laminate. It's exotic, so it's not a native species, and it was found in Ansell's Garden Centre. So we're yet to see whether that will be establishing itself in the wild. And that is it from me. So Maria, I'm going to hand back to you, and I'm going to go on mute.
Thanks very much for that, and it's great to see all the exciting work going on with Ecology and Entomology, and we've got fingers crossed that the Butterfly Atlas may well be going into publication next year, so that's a really good thing to look out for. But very exciting review of the status of butterflies in the London area at present. Okay, so I'm going to go through the botany slides now. So just to pick out a few highlights, really, the AGM talk for 2020 was by our outgoing chair, David Bevan, on the ancient woodlands of North London. It's lovely to see you here tonight, David. This was based particularly on his experience of the ancient woodlands in Haringey, where he was conservation officer. And one of the huge, important things he did there was to reintroduce coppicing to Coldfall and Queen's Woods, and that had a huge benefit for the ground flora. So it was really interesting to hear that, and the talk is available on YouTube if you missed it, so please do catch up with it if you didn't manage to hear that last year. It was very well received at the time, and it's been attracting a lot of interest ever since. Obviously, as people have already mentioned, there was this hiatus in the outdoor field meetings. We did a meeting in Brompton Cemetery at the end of March 2020, and it was a long time until the next meeting, which was a Box Hill meeting 18 months later on the 5th of September 2021. There's been a couple of other meetings since then, and it's been nice to see those happening. And we do have some events set up there's a gap now, but then towards the end of January, the meetings will be restarting as long as the situation allows, obviously. Our regular winter events, the best botanical photos and the botany quiz, they were held online in 2021, and we're planning to run the best botanical photos event early in 2022. It will be in January, and that's going to be ready for booking very shortly, so look out for that on Eventbrite. As you'll know, people who've been regularly attending, a number of the virtual talks have had a botanical theme, and there'll be more of those coming next year, and obviously Kieran's already highlighted a few of those. Andy overall has been doing some excellent work on the fungi, so I'm just going to kind of read you a little bit about some of the species that he's highlighted. He did a survey on the fungi of Richmond Park. The previous survey had been carried out in 2008, so this was a survey to look at the changing sort of state of the fungi, whether things had working, had improved, whether things were deteriorating, to just get a sense about what was happening there. Superficially, the park didn't seem to be very much changed, and when he was visiting, it appeared in good condition. But it's interesting that it's been affected in a way that quite a lot of sites have been affected because of the pandemic. Huge rise in the number of people utilising the park, and including fairly worrying things like people walking on the roadside verges. They obviously don't realise the kind of impact, but that's an important habitat for various grassland fungi. So there's a bit of concern that they might be affected. Rising traffic pollution levels, all of those likely to have a detrimental effect upon the fungi. But in fact, he also found there were very many positive results from that survey. And yeah, there we go. So a species of Amanita at present is thought to be new to science was discovered. That was associated with the hornbeam down in the site called Ham Bottom, which people who know that area will probably know. The rather rare Rubabilitas legali was recorded from 3 separate spots along the hornbeam walk, and one of which was with hornbeam, which is apparently an unusual host for this species. During 2020, 44 species were recorded as new to the park. One of the things that was particularly satisfying was it was possible to survey the golf course, which obviously isn't always possible when that's in full use. Unfortunately, the fairways were mostly disappointing, but the rough, which includes various trees, has some really fine records. Again, Andy was really pleased with those. So Amanita simulans with populus, Agaricus pulverizon amongst leaf litter, and Naucoria bohemica with mixed populus and quercus stands. So the results, when he'd finished the survey in August 2021, was that there were 407 species determined from 806 records. And really satisfyingly, among these were 50 species that were new to Richmond Park, and 19 of those were actually new to Greater London. So a really fantastic outcome, and just shows the value of that kind of survey. So that's botany. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go on next to Hampstead Heath survey, and I'm going to go through this because Liz Andrew, who's the chair of that section of our society, isn't very well, so she's not able to talk through these. So I'm going to do my best instead. So at the 2020 Hampstead Heath survey section AGM, there was various changes of personnel in the committee. So Liz Andrew took over from Kat Duke as chair, Jeff Wager from Clive Herbert as secretary, and then Kat from Kieran Brown as representative to council. They also welcomed 2 new members, Joe Maddox and Pete Mansell, and then also said goodbye to Clive and Kieran. 2021 was obviously a difficult year for surveying generally, including surveying on the Heath because of the ongoing COVID restrictions, and then also obviously people getting infected. So in spite of this, the Hampstead Heath survey did manage to achieve a considerable amount through individuals doing their own individual surveys. Oops, jumped on a bit there. Everybody would like us to point out how helpful it has been to have the cooperation with the City of London and English Heritage. So City of London ecologist Adrian Brooker, Chrissy Mulrain at English Heritage, and by Heath Hands, who we heard a talk from at the Hampstead Heath Section AGM. That's just the collaborative work that happens there makes a huge difference to the quality of what goes on. And so the survey section would like to thank them all for their support. So here are some highlights. In terms of fungi, 123 species, of which 3 are thought to be new to the Heath: Inocybium mixtillus, Crepidotus cesati, and Plicatura crispa. Bryophytes, the first record on the Heath of 5 species. The Pelianiciana is the only record in London, so that's particularly amazing. Butterflies, the purple hair streak colonies were mapped, a really important species to understand. So it was that mapping work was really valuable. For spiders, first record on the Heath for 2 spiders, Anaphina sabina and Arenaeus triquetata. Nesting birds, this has been surveyed by Jeff Wager and the Heath and Hampstead Society. There were 2 red listed birds, song thrush and missel thrush, and 6 amber listed ones: mute swan, stock dove, tawny owl, kingfisher, kestrel and dunnet. And then hedgehogs, a number of you will have come to the talk by Chris Carboni, and shortly after that talk, 150 camera traps were set up for 3 weeks on the Heath to really track where the hedgehogs are, how many of them are, what they're up to. So Chris Carboni and ZSL and the Heath Hands worked on that project. And obviously at the moment, the data is still being analysed, but it'd be really fascinating to look at what the outcome of all that research was. And then my final little section is Bookham Commons Heath survey. So what's been happening at Bookham Commons? Obviously, the regular Saturday field meetings at Bookham Commons didn't take place. Some individual members did visit the site, and there was also some correspondence with 1 or 2 local people who are very interested in the wildlife of the site. And that's been productive, that we've made some connections there. I'd also like to mention the 3-year Life on the Edge project funded by Natural England and the Friends of Bookham Commons. That's already had a really positive impact, and particularly pleasing is that the nightingales have returned. And the photo there by Colin Kemp. Colin Kemp is a local person who's been in touch with the society. He's not a society member, but we've got a really positive working relationship with him. So that's his photo, and I'm really pleased that he allowed us to share that. And then, so there's been the main work that's been happening in terms of regular surveying has been on the botany, the botanical records of the site. We're obviously hoping that more regular field meetings can take place at some stage in 2022. We'll just have to see how things go. What we do need is members who can visit that site regularly to carry out that survey work. At the moment, we don't have a committee. Hampstead Heath has got a committee of people that are able to set things up and be running those surveys and keeping everything on track. We actually don't have anybody currently doing that for Bookham Commons, and we really do need to put that in place. So as soon as it becomes possible to open things up a bit there, we really will be looking for people to form that new committee. So people who are particularly local to that area, because it is quite a distance for travelling for those of us who live up in North London, please do get in touch. You can contact me through the present email, and we'll try and start putting together a committee of people that can take Bookham Commons under their wing. I'll just point out that there is more than one common, and for local people it is quite important that the site's referred to as Bookham Commons. So that's why you'll see that kind of S that I've been copied in, because I think it's we need to kind of think a little bit more about what might be the best way of referring to that site. I would like to just mention Steve Meller, who's been leading a group of botanists and been doing some fantastic botanical recording on Bookham Common. That's meant that the latest survey of the flora of the site is now complete. During the 80 years of continual botanical investigation by the Society of that site, over 700 plant taxa have been recorded, which is amazing. And if you have a look in the new London Naturalist, Steve Mellor's update, so a complete listing of all that, the outcome of that latest survey is appearing there. So please do have a look through that. It's just fascinating to see the changes in the flora of that site over the years, and one of the values of having a long running site. So thank you. And the last thing is really just to talk a little bit about what's been going on in terms of habitat maintenance there. One of the really important habitats, which Steve wanted to kind of highlight, are the plains. These are wet meadows established over many years by grazing of common land, and then later, after the grazing came to a halt, by rabbits. Following the crash of the rabbit populations, the short sward habitat became overgrown rank vegetation with scrubs and trees. The National Trust, who are the owners of the site, have carried out maintenance work there, removing some trees and scrub, and then reinstating the cattle grazing, really importantly. And that's led to a great shift in terms of the botany in those parts of the site. So the botanists have refound plants there, such as Petty Whin, Genista anglica, not recorded there since 1988. And then Fritillary, which we've just seen a picture of on the previous slide, that's not native here, but it's a really lovely plant, and that's also taken advantage of the more open habitat. So really interesting to see the changes happening there. Oh, sorry, just to say what's going on next. I forgot I had one more slide. So one meeting was held at the site in 2021. So that was great that we actually managed, once things had opened up, we did manage to hold a meeting there. And that was a joint meeting that was held in early October, when the LNHS and the Ecology and Conservation Studies Society, led by Tommy Root, visited to look for plant balls. So great to see some, that activity going on. We have already got a London Bird Club walk planned for 2022, and that'll be in the programme, the forthcoming programme, so look out for that. We do hope so that we can run a recording day on the 14th of May, when we'll encourage as many recorders and members and visitors as possible to come along. That will obviously depend, one, on what the situation is at that stage, and also we'll need to get some people that are able to sort of take that on and run that. So, but fingers crossed that will be possible. And then I gave a short pre-recorded presentation about Wickham Commons at the London Recorders Day on 30th of October 2021. So that highlighted the surveys for some people beyond the society. Now I'm going to hand over to Gahan, who's going to talk you through the London Bird Club part of the report.
Thank you, Maria. Good evening, all. First of all, I'd like to say a big thank you to all the post holders in the LNHS and the members who make it one of the most active societies of its kind in the world. The London Bird Club has a big social media presence, and I'd like to thank Donna Zimmer and Pippa Jacks, who host it. We are also always on the lookout for people who would like to get involved. So my contact email is on this slide if anybody would like to get in touch. In a normal year, the Bird Club has 6 talks, which are held from September to March. Obviously, because of COVID, we have not held indoor meetings during the period covered by this AGM, and it's likely to continue through this winter season as well. But we hope we can resume in September 22, but again, it's a case of wait and see. The Bird Club field meetings, although postponed during the period covered on the AGM, as Maria mentioned, we've resumed them. Typically, there'll be 20 to 25 field meetings a year, and I'd like to thank Shalmali Patterson, who organized the current program, and also welcome Amy Mui Liu, who's taken on the role. A big thank you also to the walk leaders who take on the responsibility and commit the time. The walks resumed in September 2021, and we've already had 6 so far. The next program, which will be sort of coming out in February 2022, will have lots of new exciting destinations as well. And let's just hope that we don't have any variants scuppering those plans. The bird watching walks are actually good not just for seeing the sort of 200 odd species you might see in London during the year, but they're also an excellent way to discover some of London's best locations for natural history in general, and also for birds and bird photography. Those who are members will be familiar with the London Bird Report, which is quite a chunky publication which comes out annually. LBR 2019 was published in 2021, the 84th issue. I'd like to say thank you to the huge team who put this publication together. There have been some sort of changes in roles and personnel. Annie Wilson took on the new role of Secretary of the LBR Editorial Board. Derek Coleman, Ian Woodward, and Sally Middleton are now in the role of editors, Birds of the London area. And Pete Lambert, the former chairperson of the board, is in the role of editor other sections and brings his considerable experience to play. We do have a vacancy for the role of chair of the London Bird Report editorial board after Pete Lambert stepped down. So if anybody is interested, do get in touch with us. The LBR also offers an opportunity for people to have a citable piece of work based on the data that is supplied, and the LBR editorial board will train you how to analyze the data in Excel and write things up. There are more details on the website. The link is provided on the slide, but you can find it if you search. And also every issue of the LBR has a full page advertisement that explains a bit more on what the role is about. The LBR also has a paper section, which is edited by Dr. Liz Andrew. Submissions are welcome from anyone, obviously within a sort of a London area focus. A huge number of papers have been published over the year, and those in the period 2001 to 2018 is available on the LNHS website. Also bear in mind that the past issues of the LBR and the LN, the London Naturalist, are both available at the Biodiversity Heritage Library, and links are copied below, but again, you can search for them. The London Bird Club also operates a reading circle, which is managed by Angela Linnell. This offers a very good opportunity to subscribe to a number of publications at a severely reduced price. For example, you could subscribe to British Birds for just £6.75 rather than the £57 for an individual subscription. You could subscribe to Ardia, which is a Dutch scientific journal, for just £1.50 rather than the Euro 62.50. If you're interested, please drop an email to Angela, whose email is on the slide. And finally, the list of the infamous. So these are the current sort of what I call the officers of the London Bird Club. I'm not going to go through the whole list, but again, a huge thank you to everybody who contributes in one way or the other. I'll also like to say thank you to George Carley, who stepped down as the treasurer, and I'd like to welcome Nirma, who took on the role. Altogether, at least 30 people hold posts or assist in multiple ways to keep the London Bird Club ticking over. So it's a huge effort. So thank you again to everyone.
So that brings us to the end of the section of the annual report. Thank you very much for everybody for all their contributions. We're going to vote on that report in just 1 second. But before we do, I'd just like to acknowledge one of the people who's stepping down on the Botany Section, and that's Sarah Graham Brown. She's been secretary of the Botany Section for very many years. She's done a long stint in post, and I'd like to just say thank you to Sarah for all her hard work. It's been very much appreciated. You've kept the section running really smoothly, and I know that David Bevan, who stepped down last year as chair, has been particularly grateful for your contribution. So thank you to you, Sarah. So we now need to vote to receive and to adopt the annual report. So we need a proposer for that.
Well, yeah, I mean, since I technically move it, that's me.
Okay, sorry. And then do we need someone to second that?
I'll do that if you like, Michael Wilston.
That's great, thank you. So if we can put the poll up, and can we just make sure that...
See if I can make it work this time, shall I?
Yeah.
Hang on. If I do relaunch poll, relaunch the poll will clear the existing polls.
Okay, and then we'll give people a little bit of time. So in favour, against, abstain or no vote. We'll just give you a little bit of time. We'll keep an eye on the numbers to make sure most people are managing to get to vote.
It's dramatic.
I
Yeah,
will
looks
just
like
add as well, Maria, that just in case people are bothered about anybody seeing, it is anonymous as well, so we can't actually see who's voting what. So yeah, please do get your vote in.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, if you know, do feel free to vote against things or to abstain as you feel that you would like to vote. That's perfectly fine. Okay, I'm just going to give you a second. There's a few people that haven't voted yet, so maybe just give you a few more seconds, and then we'll end the poll.
Okay, ending the poll. 3, 2, 1. That's your chance gone.
Lovely. Okay, so we've got, just to remind you again that there's the 4 people who are co-hosts who can't actually be counted on these numbers. So I'm going to add the 4 to these figures. So in favour will be 60 plus 4, so 64, against 0, 2 abstentions, and then we've got some people who are not members, so that's fine. Thank you very much for that. And then we're going to go on now to Mike West, who's going to talk us through the statement of financial activities. So over to you, Mike.
Thank you very much, Maria. Well, I'm not going to talk you through the statement of financial activities right through line by line, as used to be the case, and for which relief I suspect many of you will be grateful. But I am going to highlight a few things that I think are worthy of note. Basically, well, first of all, these accounts were all approved by Council in September and signed off by Maria and myself. And then they went to the independent examiner, who's a professional accountant, and he signed them off too. Basically, the finances followed the activities, and of course, as we've heard before, you know, the range of activities and the things we've done in a lockdown year have been a bit different from a typical year. But on the other hand, looking at page 5 of the accounts, the receipts and payments, the receipts page, you know, the very first figure on that page is a fantastic boost, in that the subscription income for the year was, you know, nearly 3,800 higher than the previous year. And that's all to do with the virtual talks and attracting people, you know, to join the society, you know, through this medium. So that's a terrific bonus. On the negative side, we had a legacy last year of £5,000. Nothing matched that this year. And further down the page, we had some sponsorship money for meetings and events, nearly 1,200 last year. And because we haven't been having the same sort of events, we haven't had any sponsorship from that. The investment income from our investments was a little bit less than the previous year, but not much. And on the payment side, we had no expenditure on hire of halls or rooms that we would have normally used for our real meetings. And because there weren't indoor meetings, we weren't paying visiting speakers, so that figure dropped down as well. On the other hand, we had some Zoom costs, nearly £400, but that's been a fantastic way of keeping in touch with members, non-members, and the world at large, and also as a recruiting tool. The 2 journals, the London Naturalist and London Bird Report, cost slightly less. I think it was a slightly slimmer version of the London Naturalist in that year. But going further down from that, mailing costs were up a bit. I mean, every year the Royal Mail put their fees up, put their stamps up. But on the other hand, you know, we are in the happy position of having more members to send to. So, you know, that's a real reason why that goes up there. At the end of the year, our overall assets were, you know, just over 2% down on the previous year. We had reshuffled some of the monies in our investment accounts in the hope of getting a bit more income, which we did slightly. But on the other hand, the sort of the base value of the 2 funds that we were investing in slipped a little bit. So overall, at the end of the year, we were just down a touch, 372,000 as opposed to 380,000. But that, which sounds like a lot in terms of cash, but actually it's only a couple of percent. And the reason we hold those investments is to generate income to support the Society's activities and publications, and to keep membership rates at affordable levels. So we won't exclude people from the educational benefits of the Society. And we want to encourage increased and informed participation in wildlife recording activity. So that's why we hold those funds. If anybody has any specific questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Yep, so do raise your virtual hand or pop something in the chat if there is anything you would like to ask about the accounts. Can't see anything, so I'm assuming that means people
Brilliant.
are.
In that case, may I propose that the membership support these, endorse these accounts, approve these accounts? If I can find a seconder somewhere.
Yeah, I'll
I can
second that.
that.
Anyway, loads of people seconded it.
I think we had Jan, if we record Jan Hewlett, I think she was slightly ahead of us there, David.
Excellent. Well done, Jan.
Okay, excellent. All
Right,
right, so
ready to
then,
vote?
yeah, let's put that to the vote, please. Again, we'll just give you half a minute or so to vote on those.
Right, this is the important one because this determines whether Mike or I is the most popular person for the annual report of finances. Who gets the most votes?
Okay, I think that probably is, we probably need to end the
We'll
poll now.
close it in 3, 2, 1. There we go.
Excellent. So we've got in favour 57 plus 4, against 0, abstain 0, and then a couple of people who are not members. Thank you very much. So that's fantastic. So that's finished section 3 of the agenda, and now we're going to go on to part 4, which is about officers, members, and I'm going to start off with talking about honorary vice presidents and also remembering a couple of people from the society, and then we'll go on to the people we actually vote for. So first of all, I'd like to remind everybody that this year the society lost a long-standing member who did so much for the society and who was one of our honorary vice presidents. That was Keith Hyatt, whose obituary appears in the latest London Naturalist, and a lovely picture of him at the back. And so do take some time to read through and to remember him and to all his achievements. He did a great deal for the society and he's much missed. The Society trustees have decided that they would like to recognise the great contributions made by 2 other individuals to the London Natural History Society by inviting them to become honorary vice presidents, and hopefully they're both here this evening. They've both assisted the Society over many years in several roles, and beyond those accomplishments have offered us years of wise advice. David Montier joined the Society in 1960. He's best known as the editor of the Atlas of Breeding Birds in the London area, which was published in 1977. It established the baseline for all the subsequent atlases, and it was a successful publication and very popular. David proved to be a thoughtful and enthusiastic president when he served during the years 1980 and 1981. And then later, from 1991, he became a reassuring and well-organised ornithology indoor meeting secretary. He was also an excellent editor of the Ornithology Bulletin, and that could sometimes be a rather thankless task, but he did it fantastically. In addition, he was a member of the Administration and Finance Committee, and he was very thorough in reviewing the accounts each year, something which was very helpful for the running of the Society. Beyond the LNHS, he has also been a major figure in a number of other societies, including the British Ornithologists Union and the British Ornithologists Club, and he has taken on the role of treasurer, often in quite challenging times. We're sure that David would also wish us to thank Mary Montier, who took on the role of London Bird Club secretary, so their involvement in that section became very much a team effort. Thank you to David for all you have contributed, and we're delighted that you have agreed to become an honorary vice president. So thank you very much, and we all give him a round of applause. David, I don't know if you would want to just say a quick hello. That would be fantastic if you do, but don't feel any pressure if you prefer not to. So anyway, so that's fine. No pressure. I know you're here. I saw you arrive. So thank you very much. And we look forward to welcoming you as, I know you've been around with the Society, but it's fantastic to have you as one of our honorary vice presidents. So welcome and thank you again so much for all of us. Colin Bolt became a member of the Society in 1975 and joined the council as a trustee in 1991. He brought a very refreshing and rigorous approach to his presidency during 1994 and 1995. And possibly even more valuable to the Society was his stint as a clear-sighted and effective chair of council from 1999. This was during the period when the presidency was an honorary position held jointly by Richard Fitter and David McClintock, and Colin was invaluable in ensuring continuity in this novel role. Interestingly, Colin's first presidential address was to review the 50 years since Richard Fitter's new Naturalist London Birds. And I'll also mention he's been involved with the Society's library and had an interest in that. Now, at a later stage, perhaps, this is quite funny, perhaps because of inadvertently asking a rather clever question at an extraordinary meeting of the Society, as happens, Colin was co-opted onto the Administration and Finance Committee. And he did a fantastic job was really a great contributor to that committee. So that's what happens when you kind of speak out and say something that's useful for the Society. He then became chair of that committee from 2007 onwards until his retirement from lecturing in London. And again, we're sure Colin would also like to acknowledge the thanks that are due to Eileen Bolt. And I've been asked in particular to thank her for hosting by far the best administration and finance planning meeting we have ever held. And they're usually pretty good, so that must have been exceptional. And beyond the Society, both Colin and Eileen have been driving forces in local studies in archaeology, history and natural history in the Ruislip area. So just look online if you want to know more about that. And they've been important figures in Lammas, the London and Middlesex Archaeological Society. Thank you to you, Colin, for all you have contributed. We're delighted that you have agreed to become an honorary vice president. So please give Colin a round of applause as well. Again, Colin, there's opportunity if you want to say hello, but please don't feel under any pressure if you prefer, just to enjoy the thanks. So just one other person for us to remember before we move on to the next section. In 1960, when David Montier joined the LNHS, the editor of the London Bird Report was Donald Ian Mackenzie Wallace, known as Ian or DIM Wallace. The excellent recent obituaries of him have covered his many achievements, but of particular value to the London birding scene was his determination to record the visible migration over central London. His work remains as a great example of recording in the London area and is something which we will not forget. So now we're going to move on to the election of officers and other members to serve on council for 2022. And again, you should have had a list of these people that came out by email earlier on today. So hopefully the names will be familiar to people. So at the AGM, the officers and trustees who comprise the council are appointed. There are 3 officers, the president, the secretary and treasurer. The current president is myself, Maria Roberts, and I was appointed at the AGM December 2020, and my term of office is for 2 years. The secretary and the treasurer retire each year and are then eligible for re-election. So first of all, I need to say that David Howden is stepping down as secretary and he is not seeking re-election. No nominations for this post have been received, so this post will therefore be vacant. Just before I go on to the next person I'm going to talk about, I now need to say goodbye to David Howden. He's decided it's time for him to stand down. And I'd like to say thank you to him again so much from the Society. He's been secretary for well over a decade and he's done an incredible job. The secretary is the real linchpin of the Society with a key organising role. And David has ensured that Society has run smoothly through all the challenges that he has faced during his time in office. He has been the main point of contact as well for those who want to connect to the Society. He's put a great deal of time and effort into the Society at the same time as working full-time and being involved with several other organisations, including the Selborne Society. He's carried out all aspects of his role with great efficiency and we shall really miss him. I should also mention before I finish though that he was the speaker for our very first virtual talk. So do watch the recording of that if you haven't seen it. It was excellent. We wish David all the best for the future and we hope we can look forward to hearing more about his research at Perivale Wood at some future meeting. So thank you very much, David, from everybody from the Society. And can we give David a round of applause as well, please? Thank you. So we therefore have with that. So we have we have a vacancy for secretary, but we do have Mike West who'll be seeking re-election as treasurer. So we need to vote now on essentially on appointing reappointing Mike West as treasurer of the society. So if we can have the poll again, please, and we'll just give you 30 seconds or so.
Do you want me to propose Mike first?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we do need proposers. Sorry.
For
Yes, we
Kieran
do.
Brown to propose.
And a seconder.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Helen Baker.
Thank you. Okay, and then if we can vote, please. Okay, we'll just give a second or so more. And David, do you want to do your countdown?
Take 3, 2, 1. There we go.
Lovely. So we've got in favour 62 plus 4, 66. None against, no abstentions. Thank you. And then we need to know, though we're running over slightly, we're nearly there. So each section nominates a representative council and the AGM needs to formally elect those. So I'm going to read through those. So the nominations are as follows. For Ecology and Entomology, Anchor Marsh. For London Bird Club, Liz Andrew. For Hampstead Heath Survey, Cat Duke. Botany is vacant. Book and Commons Survey is vacant. And then in addition, there are up to 10 trustees who represent the members at large. The following trustees retire and being eligible seek re-election: Joe Hatton, Jan Hewlett, Angela Linnell, Nick Rutter and Ian Woodward. There have been no nominations received for the remaining 5 vacancies. So that's something where if you're interested, do get in touch because we are able to co-opt members to the council over the course of the year. So do get in touch with us because I will obviously do have some vacancies there. So that's the list of people. We're going to vote on them as a block. So I need a proposer.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Happy to propose.
Thank you. And a seconder.
I can second it if you like, Cat Duke.
Great, that's perfect. And so if we can have the poll for this.
So, oh, there we go.
Yep, that's there. Thank you. So again, just about 30 seconds for this.
Okay, we'll give it a
Okay.
few more seconds for the
Yep.
last few votes. Come on, the quicker you vote, the quicker we get to hear about fish. Okay, I'm going to call that in 3, 2, 1.
That's great.
There we go.
So we, yeah, so
So
in
are these results appearing on the screen, by the way?
they're
there we go.
appearing for me. I'm assuming they're appearing for other people.
Well, they are
Mike,
now.
Yep. Okay, I'm assuming they are. So we've got for in favour 61 plus 4, against 0, abstain 0. Great. So that completes section 5. So that completes section 4. Now section 5 is very quick. This is just to elect an independent examiner for the next year, 2021 to 22. Mike, do you want to say anything on that?
I would please. Yes, I'd like to propose Ralph Sears of Mayor Williams Accountants in Hertford. He knows what he's doing and he knows what we're doing, and we work jolly well together. It's been quite handy having somebody quite near to where I live in lockdown year, and heaven, who knows what next year is going to bring. So I would commend Ralph Sears of Mayor Williams for another year, please.
Okay, put me down as seconding it, and I will hit the vote button.
Yep, and then we'll put that to the vote. And again, just a few more seconds.
Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Perfect. Okay, so we have 62 plus 4, so 66 in favour, none against, 1 abstention. That brings us to the end of voting, and now there is an opportunity for any other business. So if there's anybody would like to make a comment, something as a question, anything people would like to add, I'm just going to pause for half a minute just to see if anybody would like to say something.
I'd like to come in with something quickly, Maria. I won't be long. It's just to say that the Brad Ashby Memorial Lecture didn't take place this year, and we'll actually be running it in January online. And it will be called I'm Not a Spider, and it will be about harvestmen with Paul Richards. So we're really excited about it. It's available to book now. I've dropped the link in the chat. I'll shut up. And
Great.
I think Kat had her hand up.
She did, yeah. Okay, that's great. That's a great title. It must count as one of the best. Kat, would you like to say something as well?
Just very briefly, I just wanted to thank you, Maria, for taking on this role as president and being so enthusiastic and so kind of proactive in the role. It's been really very gratefully received, and we're all very grateful, I think.
Oh, that's really nice. I wasn't expecting that. Thank you very much, Kat. That's really nice. That's really nice to hear. I do appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, so any other business? Or okay, so I'm now going to, would I officially declare the meeting closed, the AGM closed for this year? Yep. And then we're going to go